first is to just introduce Autodesk Construction Cloud and then delve into Autodesk Build, seeing as Autodesk Build is part of Autodesk Construction Cloud. And then I'll showcase a customer success, and then we'll be done with the presentation, have some Q&A, and then from there we'll get into a brief demo of what the product can do for us. And from there we'll call it a day. So generally, most of you being project managers, architects, or depending on what your profession is, as long as you're in the construction industry, most of the times this is what we find as a problem. Working in silos, information being very segmented. The architects have their own drawings. Probably that's not the same thing as what the QS has at the time. And then we're constantly updating information. But we're getting into a space with this digital transformation where we can make a more connected team. And that's what Autodesk has. A minor error somewhere in terms of calculation or a drawing instruction, litigation where probably there are project delays, there are issues probably on site of reworks. So let me start from this particular slide. So I hope that the bit for the perpetuating loop of the problems we have on site, where we have us working in silos and then mistakes happening on site or even within the design team, and the litigation process was clear. And also, I think this is information that we already have. And I feel some of these problems are the reasons why digital transformation is important within our construction workflows. So for us now comes Autodesk Construction Cloud. And what Autodesk Construction Cloud is, for those who are already on Revit or InfraWorks or Civil 3D, depending on what you use for your design works, or even AutoCAD, that particular package is called AEC package, and it's majorly for drafting, design, 3D modeling, visualization. So now comes Autodesk Construction Cloud, which is a totally online solution. So you do not necessarily need to install it in your machine. All you need to do is solutions. So under ACC, I've mentioned that you can be able to use the different solutions throughout the stages of the construction. So Autodesk Docs is our common data environment that we can use from the planning phase all the way to the construction execution. And even afterwards, it can be used during the facilities management. And then we have Autodesk Takeoff that can be used for both those phases, and Autodesk Build, which is what we use essentially for our field execution works. And from this chart here, you'll notice that you can use Build for our common data environment, since Docs comes as an add-on. We have the reporting and insights, and then we have the project management. Under that, we have meeting minutes, being able to manage your issues and tasks, being able to manage any field activities. Then we have the quality and safety management and cost management. And with that, we also have project closeout. So we'll be able to look at this further when we get into our demo. So Autodesk Docs, as I said, is a software that comes within the Autodesk Build package. So if you purchase Build, you get Docs. So what Docs can do for you is you can be able to organize, distribute, and share your files on a single connected document management platform. And the three major roles or advantages that you can get from Autodesk Docs as your document management software is document control, document versioning, and document approvals. And to your right of your screen, you can see some snaps of when you have a review of probably some drawings. To your right, you have being able to look at different sets of drawings, including a model, and then there's a folder structure. So you can nest your folder structure depending on how it is that you do within your company. So that is not limited by Autodesk Docs. Again, you have unlimited storage, so it doesn't limit you to one project, 10 projects, and the amount of data that you can get within the projects. Then here comes the capabilities and functionalities of Autodesk Build. So we have project management, quality management, safety management, project closeout, cost management, and document management. And I mentioned that document management comes as an add-on. So it means that these 6 functionalities are the main ones that you get from Autodesk Build. And then to your right of the screen, you have snaps of issues which are pending and showcasing the types of issues that probably were on site. Then how you can create an issue, how you put a pin on the issue, and then the review process of certain issues. And then at the top, there's a snap of a couple of issues that probably were in a project. So some of them are open, some of them are pending, and then the types are varying. So we have commissioning, safety, clash. We have different types of issues that are on site. So allow me to start with just the general breakdown of what Autodesk Build capabilities and workflows look like. So the capabilities, I've highlighted them. There's the doc management. So under that, we have the workflows of document control, the versioning, the approval. So it's possible for you to send documents in Autodesk docs and request either an architect to approve them, or depending on the approval systems that you have on site. Then we have the versioning. So you can overwrite. Kindly mute your mics, please. So thank you. So with the document versioning, it's possible for you to visualize the changes that have been made with different sets of drawings. So if there's a version 2 and a version 10, it doesn't limit you to consecutive versions. So it's possible for you to do so. And then under cost management, we have budget creation, contract administration, change orders, payment applications, and expenses forecasting. Under project management, you have the RFIs, submittals, correspondence, meeting minutes, specifications, daily reports, schedule. Under quality, we have planning assurance, that's QC. We also have punch list, issue management. Under safety, we have the planning, the training, observations, and inspections. And under project closeout, we have commissioning, turnover documentation, warranty management, final completion, and as-built. So the one thing I would say is with Autodesk Build, it's possible for you to utilize the software without necessarily utilizing Word, MS Word, or whatever it is that you use to write your minutes. Same thing if you want to look at a Revit drawing or visualize a PDF drawing that has been sent, you do not necessarily need different software. So you just click on the PDF or 3D model, and you can visualize it just using the software itself. So that's the biggest sell of Autodesk Build. Other than that, I think most of us are usually using Excel templates. So with Autodesk Build, you do not necessarily need an offline template. With RFIs, it's just as easy as being able to note down what are the key things that you would need, especially with the execution plan. So being able to know what those items are and then populating that information, because it's very intuitive. So under streamlined document management, so we have the control, approvals, and versioning. So I'll just take us through just some brief snaps that will allow us to see how it is that you can make sure that the right information is sent out within our project teams. So as you can see on your snapshot, we have different level permissions depending on what your role and scope is within a project. So you can view, you can create, you can edit, you can manage. For anyone who just has the view only permission, then you can be able to see any information that is within those folders. If you've not been added to the project, then you won't have visualization of said projects or any information that is related to that particular project. Then we have create. Create allows you to view, upload, and you can also be able to send information to other members of the team. Then we have edit. Edit allows you to do the same thing, view, upload, and make changes to some of those drawings or even send comments to some of the drawings. Then manage, this would probably be a project manager or an accounts admin who would have full administrative controls of the entire project folder, so that then it's possible for them to keep track of all the items that are being shared within the team and make sure that it's the correct information that's being sent out. It's possible for the PM to add different members and aligning them with the scope that they have on the project. So you can customize depending on what information you're sharing. If you're sharing to external members who are not necessarily in your construction team, then you can create a public link that allows people who are outside the project to download the information. And I think this is important, especially when it comes to the bidding process and you're trying to send out a tender pack. So with versioning, as you can see on the screen, so we have different changes that have been made on the screen on this particular drawing. So items in blue are additions and red are omissions. So it's possible for you to have this and the comparison between different projects. As you can see, there is the A101 and the two different drawings, sets of drawings, and it shows you what has been changed throughout the two different versions that are being compared. And again, as long as it's the same file that has been saved in the documents folder, then it's possible for you to be able to compare between the two different documents and probably pick up on the changes and highlight some of those changes that have been made that probably are erroneous or maybe items that need to be updated. Then we have the approval system. So once items are uploaded on Autodesk Docs, then it's possible for us to have some sort of review workflow. And these things are what we usually do at the beginning when we are logging new projects into Autodesk Build. We look at what is your current traditional approval workflow. Is it a 2-step workflow, 3-step, 4-step? And then from there, we're able to translate that into Autodesk Build. And that's why you can see here we have the first reviewer, the second review, and then the final review. So depending on what process you'd like, if you'd like the PM to initiate the process of a submittal and then send it to a specific person, then that is something that you can do. And as you can see, you can also edit the number of days that should be taken with every review process. So that also it prompts the person who's in charge of that process to take a shorter time or make sure that they finalize the task within the period that has been allocated. So the next part is a connected cost management platform. So we have cost management tab within Autodesk Build that allows you to look at the different structures of payment either. So you can create the contract sum and be able to share that. And then from there, you can be able to make changes to that particular figure. You can also be able to generate change orders depending on either discussions that are being made on site or items that probably have been raised. And you can link that to either a meeting that was had or potentially an issue that's on site and be able to send that out to all construction team members. So payment applications and expenses can also be done using our cost management tab. And using the earlier budget that you already have, then you can key in the different sums of that are being used on the project. And then from there, it's able to calculate or forecast the amount of money that has been spent based off on and populate that. And then based off on the budget that you had, you'll have a comparison so that then you'll be able to see how much money has been sent and probably what amount should be spent. And then from there, it's possible for the consultant team members to then come together and agree on probably where are we bleeding money, or is it rework? Is it that we have so much delay that is costing us money, and be able to make those decisions based off on actionable data that is available on Autodesk Build, based off on what has already been provided. So under project management, we have submittals, RFIs, schedule, daily reports, correspondence, and meeting minutes. So with submittals, I'd mentioned that you do not need so on your right, you can see that we have different items. Some are required, some are open, some are probably still on drafts. Submittal requests, then you can be able to key in the necessary information that is required and then send to the person who needs to visualize that information. And then has to be able to see what information is being passed. Information might probably affect their scope. And most times with the client, you would like them to be so you'll notice that Autodesk Build the project to be a watcher with every process that's being added. And then now you can add members of the team that you'd like to be part of that. And this helps to make sure that all critical members of and have the information that is necessary. And it's possible for you to keep track of item. There is an activity log or information log that shows of the submittal request, especially with that workflow that we had. So if the contractor has probably already submitted something, then it's possible for it to show that. And then if currently the PM is the one who's supposed to be reviewing on the architect, then it will show that when you look at the application and you're looking at the ball in court space. Then for items that probably do not have a due date, then you can specify kindly confirm that you can hear me.
Yeah, you're audible. There was some sort
Okay.
of glitching, but you're now okay.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, so let me go back to the submittals. So with RFIs, we still have the same kind of workflow where it's quite intuitive. It's just clicking on create an RFI. And then from there, it's possible for you to link a request with a potential change order. Alternatively, depending on your approval workflow or review workflow, then you can send that request for information to a specific person and they'll be able to share that information. And the good thing, it's possible for you to add multiple people as long as they are already added to the project, and they will receive an email notification on their end that will prompt them to act on that particular item. So that is what is on the left side of the screen. And then on the right, quite similar to the submittals, and that's probably the selling end of Autodesk Build. It's quite simple in terms of its user interface because it's still the same repetitive items that you'll find: ball in court, the status, the ID will be automatically generated, and then you'll add the title. So depending on the key items that you probably need so that you can search for or filter this particular item, then you can also be able to add certain annotations that will allow you to pick up on those RFIs. Then with the schedule, so we have our own schedule tab that allows you to upload your Primavera, MS Projects, Asana schedule. And then from there, what it allows you to do is to break down some of those activities into smaller activities and allocate different stakeholders, subcontractors or contractors to specific items. So with this, then it allows us to keep track of the minor activities that probably have not been populated. And then seeing as when you have the schedule offline, you have to be the one to keep doing the follow-up. But when you break them down within Autodesk Build and assign those tasks to different stakeholders, subcontractors or contractors, then they will receive automatic prompts that this work should have been completed 2 days ago, that then necessitates them to either give an explanation or rush up on that particular task. So this can be done. breaking down of the smaller activities. You don't have to do that from the get-go. Once you kickstart your construction meetings, you can probably have the 2-week look ahead or 3-week, depending on how your project process is. And then during those meetings, that's when you break down these activities and even have them all the way to as many weeks ahead as you would like. Then that means that it's possible for the PM and consultants to keep track of activities and see either if there's certain tasks that are probably not being done to the best quality, and then there's a lot of rework that's causing delays. Then it's possible to pick up on those issues, seeing as you will be able to see which subcontractor is not performing at par or is not completing their tasks. Then from there, you can either highlight, is it a personnel issue, is it a resourcing issue, or is it just a workmanship issue? Then this is what we're talking about in terms of being able to have something that's intuitive and allows you to receive insights that help you to make informed decisions on the construction project. And if you see that happening over a period of 1 month, then you guys can be able to, as construction team members, can be able to act on that information. So with the daily reporting, you can customize your daily reports depending on the information that you'd like. And automatically it will pick up probably from what is already there. So things like weather would be populated automatically, seeing as it's already online. And now what would happen is this would be some sort of checklist. So you only create the template once, and then from there moving forward, you only have one person who does this daily reporting. So that person would be checking off certain items. So depending on, are you looking at the concrete works, plumbing, or is it all the works? And then being able to take photos is quite easy. Seeing as Autodesk Build has a mobile version too, which is accessible on Google Play Store and App Store. So then you're able to take photos with your phone and upload them on the Autodesk Build platform and attach those to your daily reports. Then with correspondence, we have our very own emailing system that uses a backbone of your existing email address. So if you're on Google, if you're on Outlook, if you're on Zoho, depending on whatever it is that you use to log into Autodesk, then that is what would be used to generate a very specific email ID that you use within the Autodesk Build platform. So as opposed to sending emails on Outlook and Gmail and having a thread outside Autodesk Build, we have the correspondence tabs that allows you to create. So the same way you create an email on Outlook, then that's the same thing you do. You click on create and then key in the information that you'd like, have the people that you'd like to send out the information, and then if you'd like to attach something, and if probably there was previous communication on Outlook or Zoho, it's possible for you to attach that email and send that out as a correspondence. And what this does is it makes sure that all the correspondence that has happened from beginning of the project to the end is all in one space. And then only the people who are recipients or need to know this information have access to this information. So if you're probably a contractor and it's a design issue and it's only been sent to the consultants, then they are the ones who will action that item. Now, the good thing is, if you'd like to export all the correspondence, it's possible for you to do so during project closeout. And you can also filter out using this filter icon, the specific correspondence that you'd like, depending on what information was sent. And you have a subject. So as you can see here, this email has incident report, project weekly bulletin, foundation rework scheduling. So then it works as your email does. So you do not need to externally use your email address for you to send out emails within the construction team. All you need to do is use the correspondence and you'll be able to receive notifications. So what happens is you'll receive notifications on your Outlook, Gmail that prompt you to go back to Build. So when you click on that notification, if it's a submittal, it will take you to the submittal part. If it's a correspondence, then you'll be able to visualize that. Then we have meeting minutes. So the same way we usually have an agenda, we start with creating an agenda. So with Build, we start by creating an agenda. An agenda can have safety schedule and have the open, depending on Is the issue still in discussion? Has it been closed out? Then it allows you to do so, and even to a point where you can attach RFIs or different files that probably are related to that particular item. As you can see from the snapshot on the screen, you can also assign, if there are specific people who need to action that item, you can quote them within the agenda. Then when the meeting starts, whoever is in charge of writing the minutes, depending on, is it a design meeting, whoever is supposed to write the minutes will convert this agenda into now a minute. And then what they will do is fill in the necessary information. And then once the meeting is done, circulate that information as minutes. And then once you get back to, say, meeting 5, then the previous minutes will be used to now create the new agenda item. So this means that at any point in time, all the items are available on Autodesk Build, and you do not need issues for, we can't trace the email for the last minutes that we had, or probably whoever wrote the last minute is not in, so then we do not have access to those particular minutes. So with this, it means that at any point in time, we have a single source of truth, and it's possible for different consultants to head or chair, depending on what the meeting is, using the different information. So if something has been closed out, then it will be closed out on the Autodesk Build platform. So once the meeting is done, then whoever was writing minutes does not need too much time to prepare the minutes. And circulating them, again, is as easy as depending on the members that you'd like. If the meeting is virtual, then we have a plugin that allows you to automatically add your Teams meeting link or Zoom, so that then you're able to, every time you do not need to send out an invitation. So people will just click on that link and then have the meeting virtually. Okay. Then with specifications, depending on the various items that probably would be needed, then you can add all those items within the specifications tab, especially if it's instructions of what are the requirements that you'd like for these specific works to be done. So we can keep a log of all items. So at any point, you will give access to whoever is in charge of those items so that they can refer to that information, and at any point it can also be updated if need be. As you can see, most of them are actually on version 2. So wood is, all items are on version 2. So depending on a new item or a new issue has arisen, and probably you've noticed that there is a particular instruction that had not been previously added. So what you do is you add that particular instruction or omit whatever it is that you'd like, and then upload that, and then it becomes version 3. So at any point in time, you're building on to what you previously had. And again, since it's the newest data or the newest file, then the moment someone goes to access the specifications of, say, architectural wood casework, then they'll be able to review the most updated version. You won't have cases of they used the first version or a third version and probably on version 10. So this makes sure that at any point we have a single source of information. Then with quality, I'll quickly talk about the planning. So the good thing with this, you can be able to create, say, a template that then allows you to minimize any mistakes that would probably be on site. So it's more like creating a standardized form. The same way we're doing with the daily reports, that's the same thing we do here with forms. So depending on what items you'd like to check off for quality, so you'd create as many templates as the different items, because steelworks, say, plasterworks, all those items have different levels of quality that you're looking for. So you would create those templates, and then during those inspections, it would be as easy as checking off the quality, the different items that have been outlined within those scopes. Sorry. Then with QC, we already have now our form. So this is what I was talking about. So when you already have created your form, then it would be a matter of you keying in the information. For example, this is a concrete forming pre-pour checklist. So what parts are we pouring the concrete, and then verify the location, dimensions, and grades are as required. And then depending on what items, is it a pass, is it a fail, is it not applicable? And then you can also add photos. I'd mentioned that we have the mobile version, so it allows you to take a photo so that you make sure that at any point this is a checklist that was done on site and not someone doing it off their mind. And you can create as many items as depending on what item you're probably making sure that the work is done at par. With issue management, so issues can be created during the design process, during the construction phase. But since this is field execution, so during your inspections, you probably notice there's a particular issue on site. You can click on create an issue, and then from there you can attach and add a pin to a specific location or a specific item. If it's a drawing, say for door schedule, and you'd like someone to look at a specific specification on that PDF, you can just add a pin to that drawing and then populate what issues. So if the issue, write the description for that issue, assign it to the contractor who's probably, or the subcontractor who's in charge of that specific location, and then add a timeline. So the start date, end date, and then what is the root cause of this issue. So is it a constructability issue? Is it a quality issue? So you add that, and then now from there, the person who's in charge of that will be notified on email, and then they'll be able to rectify that. So with issue management, I'd mentioned that we have different status. So in review, pending, open, and draft if you've not sent it out. Then we have the types of issues. So we have the building code, clash, commissioning, design, safety. And you can see that we have different items that have been assigned to different consultant team members, and start date and due date. So what happens is if something is overdue, it will show, it will highlight itself in red, so that then that prompts people to probably follow up on that particular issue. But for the rest, it will show whether they're in review, and there's no need to worry. But then now this makes it easy for PMs to be able to manage any issues that are on site and follow up on them with minimal, with minimal collisions, since it's depending on the start and due date and probably the scope of the work, and also the comments will probably be shared as feedback of why, because sometimes maybe there's a disaster that happened on site and that's the reason why this item is overdue. So when we have that activity log, then it makes it easy for us to not necessarily rely on our memory or an email that was written previously, but use the activity log to then make informed decisions on what is the next step on this particular issue if there's something that's been overdue for too long. Then when we are logging in our defects on site, this can be done all the way from start and closing them out depending on as soon as they have been done. So you can track your inspection notes using standardized templates, and you don't necessarily need to have this offline. So with this, we have the doors installed, door trims, depending on what it is that you're looking for. Or you can customize this and then use this for the inspections that you will have. And then once it's done, you'll generate that, and then you can close out on items depending on whether the items have been actioned out to the quality that you need, and even share comments depending on if something has not been done as per what was outlined. With safety management, it's quite similar to what we have with quality management. The forms are quite intuitive, and you can customize them depending on the level of the project and the safety protocols that you have on site. So same thing, you can customize the questions, the forms that you'd like, and then we'll use them to check off depending on the inspection that you have. Then this makes it easier for HSC. Then you can also plan ahead. So depending on, probably there are some items that you foresee being potential issues. You can see there's a COVID-19 safety checklist. There's a time, what is this? So depending on what epidemic is happening, you can create that and use that as a starting template. And maybe it's a safety, just a general cleaning template checklist that you'd like, of the levels of cleanliness or safety within the site. So you can create that as a form and then circulate that, so that at any point in time, you can avoid certain situations escalating or certain incidents escalating. And this information, once it's created, you can send it out to all members of the team, and they'll have visibility of those different forms. And then with HSE, they can then be able to disseminate that information as frequent as they'd like, or to send that information for people to refer, depending on the onboarding processes of new members to the team. So with training, you can have a sort of toolbox or a repository for the different information that you'd like. So then at any point, you can be able to create a sort of culture within the project team. And this also helps with keeping track of who has been trained, probably potentially if there's a new team that's being onboarded, have they already gone through all the safety protocols? So this allows you to keep track of some of those items. Then observations on site, depending on any incidents, then you can be able to log in the specific, if it's an incident, what was that specific item? So this is a report concerning a fall due to lumber left in a walking path. And then based off on those safety observations, then it's possible for HSE to either work out something or create the necessary safety protocols that are important to make sure that those items do not keep repeating themselves on site. During our project closeout, we have the as-built survey, final completion, warranty management, turnover documentation, and commissioning. So under commissioning, you will be able to send out the various information. So the status is specified, ordered, delivered, installed, pre-startup, startup, pre-functional, performance test. So you can keep track of every element that has been added on site and be able to keep updating it based off on where it's at. And we have different assets that you create. So if it's the HVAC systems, I mean, if you'd like the faucets, I mean, whatever it is that you'd like to probably check off, then you can be able to keep track of that by just logging them in as assets, and from there, updating the status of those items on site. So when you accept them, then you check that off, and then the only items that will be left are those that have probably not been either installed or items that are still in their performance tests. And in the event that there's something that needs to go back, then it's possible for all that logging to information to be logged in, and you'll know why some item is being delayed to probably receive kickoff. Then we have the as-built report. So I've mentioned that with Build, you have the document versioning aspect that allows us to keep track of all the project drawings, and you keep updating them intuitively. So by the time we are done, we'll probably be on a specific drawing to be on version, maybe 15, 20, depending on how often or how frequent changes have been made and uploaded. So what happens is when we are handing over, then it becomes easy for us to just download a zipped folder that has all the information that's necessary for that particular handover report. So if you'd like the architectural package, if it's just the structural, if you'd like all the RFIs and maybe published sheets and submittals, and then maybe you want the correspondence, then that's something that you can be able to do. And once you create an as-built report, it's as simple as clicking on the as-built report, and then it will request you it will prompt you to select the various tabs that you'd like to export. So the RFI submittals, photos. Maybe you do not want to export photos and RFIs at the same time. So then those items will be logged in here as various attachments that members of the team can be able to download as the as-built report. And then it will keep track of the last time that item was downloaded. And at any point, then you can also, once the project has been closed out and probably you do not want to continue subscribing to Autodesk Build, or you do not have an active site, then this last button here, which is download zip, allows you to download everything, and you can keep that probably in your local storage, or if you have a different repository that you'd like to use, which makes it easy for the as-built process. So why use Autodesk Build for your project management solutions? You'll have fewer RFIs, reduced clashes, and rework. I've mentioned that it's quite intuitive in terms of by the time you're getting to a certain RFI and it's the same consultant who's been requested of information, then certain things will be amended so that at any point we do not have that repeating itself. Again, the clashes using Autodesk Construction Cloud, we have BIM Collaborate Pro that allows us to run our clash detection intuitively based off on the architectural model and the structural model, and it runs that automatically. So what happens is during the meetings, you probably make a decision on who probably needs to make amends to their model so that those particular issues do not come up. Then with reworks, with the schedule and also probably the quality management forms and logs, then we'll be able to keep track of what information has been taking too much time. Then you have enhanced client satisfaction, because from the start of the project to the end, you're keeping the client updated. So even when there's a potential change order, they are able to see that and they're able to start making sense of what is about to happen. And you do not need to necessarily, even as you're making the monthly reports to the client, they already know what to expect in that report, as opposed to them receiving a document that outlines how far back we are in the project. So this means that they become part and parcel of the construction process, and that siloed effect that we previously have is eliminated. And then the timeliness of our project completion. So as long as we have those broken down activities that make it easier for smaller tasks to be done with a shorter time, and then that means that we have more overhaul over what is being done on site and how long those activities take on site. So what other customers are saying about Autodesk Build, some of them like that it caters to different individual workflows. So probably you're an architect and you do not want to receive information that's not necessarily to you. Same thing, you're a subcontractor, you just want very specific information that's just for you. So you'll receive access to the specific folders that you need, and at any point with your correspondence, you will receive prompts and notifications based off on either activities that you need to work on yourself or activities that you need to be in loop of. And the fact that we have one single place where you can access your plans, your RFIs, your submittals, so you do not necessarily need a local storage or to keep information away from online. So if you're seeking a certain submittal, the same place where you had found it, you'll be able to just move back and filter out the specific items that you're looking for. The other thing is just, it makes it easier with all of us having the same information. And all you need to do is for a day, you just wake up, log into it, and you can get anything literally as long as you have access to that information on the project. Okay, so that's it for my presentation. I'll probably take questions now, but probably for those who would like to know how to contact me, my email address and contact information is on the screen, and also our website information if you'd like to reach us or see what it is that we do as ADCC. Probably Patrick, you can lead us with the QA session.
Thank you for the presentation, Rita. Yeah, I will speak not as a customer, but as a passive consumer of the platform. I think one of the things it addresses clearly is the convenience of the information and the communication amongst all stakeholders, because now I think one problem we usually have with projects is also the availability of the consultants. So somebody is having a project in Mombasa, another one is having a project in at the same time, the same person is having a project in Kisumu. So when there's a need for them to come on site urgently to address to address a certain RFI or instruction, I think is a better platform to communicate, because even approvals, you can agree that they are done from there. Because at the moment, we still do them via WhatsApp, via emails. People pretend they don't read emails, and all such kind of chaos. So yeah, I welcome all questions. You can raise your hand. You can type on the chat, so that we proceed to the short demo. I think as the rest gear up, I'll start on the part of scheduling, where you said it you can upload your Primavera, your MS project, your Asana. Is it that the MS project opens on that side? Is like it's a whole plugin, or it explodes there, and then the platform now builds its own from the MS project? Can I
Okay.
go again?
No, I've got the question. So let me respond to that. In terms of the scheduling tab, what happens is you will import your MS projects file or Primavera. So you can't create your schedule unless it's those you. If you'd like to create the schedule, it would be quite tedious because the platform is not as friendly as the general scheduling apps that you already use. But then it is able to pick up what you already have done on either Primavera, Asana, or MS projects. And then from there, you explode that and then you break it down into smaller items. So in the event that there's something that has been amended on the Primavera file, then you can upload that and then it will be appended on what is on Autodesk Build. So you use Primavera for the creation of the entire schedule. And then from there, you upload it to Autodesk Build, and then you break down the activities or you assign. Also, you don't necessarily need to break them down into small activities. You can just assign each activity to a specific person to be in charge of that process. Hope that answers you.
Yeah, I think I've gotten the hint. The second one is on matters forecast. How does it the intelligence that it uses for forecasting? What is the baseline? What is the basis? For instance, over here we say, or according to the contract of JBC, variations that don't exceed a certain percentage, they can be done on site without approval of the client. But if they exceed, they are done. I think it's 0.5% or something. I have to check maybe. So now getting back to the system, is it that there is somewhere it is fed the basics so that to extrapolate that intelligence, or how does it sort of build its own intelligence?
Okay, so to answer that, with the cost management tab, at first, before even you start using the forecasting tab, you'd have to weigh in the budget. So you need to add what it is that is currently supposed to be utilized on the project, or the budget that you have for the project. Then it will use that budget against what is actually being paid out. So for example, say with your budget by month 5, we were supposed to be at 60 million. And then from your payment applications and the payments have been made, it's looking like you've done 70 million. That's what it will extrapolate, or that is what will be on those curves. It will just use the information that you fed, just that it will be there for you to intuitively see. So you do not need to calculate that. So the moment you make an application and you update it on Autodesk Build, it will automatically generate that information. So the intelligence is based off on the human data that has been added.
Okay, so it still says that somebody cannot sort of add his own wrong things because everything will be messed up.
Yes, yes. I'd say as a rule of thumb, with anything that requires some sort of, especially where we are at with AI and data federation, it's important for us as consultants to be wary of what information you're inputting. So the moment you see something probably has gone off in terms of the curve, then you can just check what information you fed and then edit that. The good thing is there's no mistake that can't be edited in terms of the software. So it's not that because you edited, you entered, say, 10,000 as opposed to 100,000, that now you can't edit that. The thing is making sure that you look at the forecasting tab so that you can see what does your curve look like, and then see whether you made any errors while inputting the data.
So final question, who is the main admin of that platform? Now, let's take in a project case. You guys have sold it. You've handed over maybe the logins to the client, but the client is just the buyer or maybe the project company. Now, in terms of the specific stakeholders, because I know if somebody uploads something there, he cannot delete. Maybe, for instance, an engineer cannot delete an architectural design that was uploaded by an architect, for instance. He can only maybe delete theirs or upload again. But now, who is the main admin of the platform that that controls the entire system? Is it that you agree the person is made, or it depends on the project they agree and then assign? What goes on?
Thank you, Patrick. That's a very good question. So in terms of our products, all the products, the Autodesk Build, BIM Collaborate, and Takeoff, and even Autodesk Docs, we have two different major levels of setup. We have the account setup and the project setup. So depending on, for example, all members of today's webinar, if we were all to purchase Build, we'd have our own accounts. So you as ACMK would have your own account. I'm seeing Joel Kiragu, he'd probably have his own account based off on what company they're in. So at the bare minimum, all of us would have accounts. So in our individual companies, there's probably projects that we want to internally probably control or do the project management for. So those projects, we would be the account managers and project managers for those projects. And then based off on your scope. So most of you here are project managers, and for most projects, it's either the project manager or the architect who's in charge. So the project manager can either be the architect or the PM, depending on who it is that is leading that particular project. But again, as I said, based off on, like, for example, my account, the only projects I can see are the projects that have been added. So I won't be able to see a project that you've created on your end as long as you've not added me to that particular project. And if you've not assigned me a role, and even when you add me to your project, you need to assign me specific modules of that project. So if you add me to, say, a project that's, say, on Thika Road and it's a residential project, you have to make sure that you add me as an architect, make sure that I have access to, if we are using BIM Collaborate Pro on this project, then make sure you give me permissions to that. If on this project you're not using BIM Collaborate Pro, then make sure you check off that particular box. Then make sure that at the bare minimum, everyone has access to Autodesk Docs, since that's our common data environment. And then make sure everyone has access to Autodesk Build. That's the second level of management. Then from there, we have setting level permissions. So we do not want certain information going to the contractor and them using that information for construction purposes. So we need to make sure that the different folder structures that have been created, you assign the specific ones that you'd like to be in view for them to use for information purposes. And even when you're sending out that information, you can add a stamp if this item is for construction or it's only for information purposes. The same way for the architects, the structural engineers, maybe even the MEP engineers, you make sure that everyone has access to their folder structure. And then for each folder structure, the architect is the only one who can edit items within their folders. And now the project admin or the project manager. So the project admin, I said, can either be the person who's running the project, the architect or project manager. So for most purposes, I'll use the project manager since that's what is heavily being done nowadays. So we'll have the project manager having managerial, which is the full administrative rights. So they're the people who will probably hide certain folders so that certain people do not have access to that. Same way, before you onboard members to the team, you make sure that you ensure that they can't mute certain notifications. So the same way, it's possible for you to mute notifications on your end as an architect. You probably do not want every time to receive a prompt from Autodesk Build. So you as a project manager, when you're onboarding members, you need to make sure that they can't mute, especially the ones that are related to them or activities or issues that they need to be in loop of. So in that way, you make sure that, hello, yes?
Sorry, let me cut you short. Now, on those managerial sort of privileges, so
Yes.
me thinks, you see what happens even with emails, a contractor submits maybe an RFI to the PM. So the PM sends that email to spam so that they say they never read it to the spam folder. And maybe they read, they forgot, so they are now trying to get themselves out of pressure. So if this guy has such kind of privileges still in the platform, what is the sort of countermeasures to prevent the person from a cheeky behavior? Say he or she deletes maybe a file that was supposed to be used for project, maybe for reasons known to him, and is not something ethical. What remedy is there in place to control that? I don't know if you've gotten me.
Yes, I have gotten your question. So the first thing I'd say is in terms of the muting of notifications, and that's why I was saying the person who has the full administrative rights would be the project administrator. And I'm hoping by the time we're choosing the project administrator, we vetted the person and ethically speaking, they would not potentially sabotage a project. And if that's the case, then I think no amount of software necessarily really would help. That person needs to be removed from the project. So the good thing would be, since we have the account management level, it's possible for the client, because most times the person who would have the account management would be the client team. So the client team can remove that particular project manager or project administrator from the project so that they no longer can sabotage processes within the project. So that would be the first level of item that I'd say in terms of account administration and the project administration, if the person who's probably sabotaging is within those levels. The same way I shared an invitation as a project manager to an architect, I can also revoke those privileges. So you can also revoke the privileges at any point in time. So it doesn't have to be that now because I added you on the project, you forever have access to this project. At the moment, probably even you're no longer on the project because of some litigation issues or even quality purposes. So it's as simple as removing those people from the project and then making sure that they no longer have access to the project. And then in terms of making sure that the privileges, so when you're setting up the project, make sure that those permissions have already been set up prior. So when you do it prior, then it means that during the construction phase or the execution of the project, you won't find yourself in places where maybe a structural engineer added items to the architectural folder. Because we also have, so as I was saying with the BIM Collaborate, you can consume a file or a package that has been sent out. So you do not necessarily need to have access to the architectural folder. The same way with when you're sending out information, you can click on all those items that you've uploaded on your folder and send them out to different members of the team. So what I'd say is from the get-go, being able to set those level permissions and making sure that the specific members of the team, depending on their scope and role on the project, make sure that you set those permissions. And that's what we are usually here for as ADCC. We will guide you through that process of setting up the permissions and helping you to translate what you're doing on the ground to what you can do on site, on the project, on the Autodesk Build platform. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the response. I see also Sylvester has complimented your response. And I also see there are no further questions. There are no questions on the chat, so we can proceed to the demo briefly, so that we can wind up.
Okay. So for purposes of making sure that we are all here, so let me share my screen. Okay, so I hope that you can be able to see my screen. So I'm currently sharing the Autodesk Construction Cloud platform. I'd mentioned that being able to access this, and for all of us on the call, as long as you've not paid for the account, there's a trial version that is usually 30 days. So you do not need to purchase it first for you to know the proof of concept. You can sign up and then use it for the first 30 days and see whether what I'm talking about is factual or not. And then in that process, we can also take you through training for you to be able to familiarize yourself with the various processes that go into the Autodesk Construction Cloud solutions. So to start us off, I'd mentioned that we have the account admin. So this would be what you look at when you land on the platform. So depending on what your account is. So for us, it's ADCC International East Africa. And you can see we have various projects, we have various members of the team, we have various companies that we've previously worked with. So this is what you would be able to look at when you log into the website. You can also be able to customize under settings. You can change your account name and you can also set up different permissions. So from here, if you'd like to probably allow project administrators to add partner companies. So you can be able to add those permissions. You can allow project administrators to create projects and project templates. So this becomes easy depending on what your project or the company is. So if you have, say, a company like, say, Wafula, I hope there's no Wafula on the call, and apologies if you're Wafula. So if you have, say, a Wafula construction company that has a couple of project managers, and those project managers are the ones you'd like to create projects. So as an account admin, you can make sure that they can't just keep on generating projects. So if you toggle this and you say no, it means that you as the account administrator are the only person who's allowed to create new projects on your account. But since for most people, you'd like to have your project managers being able to create that depending on what project they're on, then most people leave it as yes. Then from there, let me go back to home. So on the home tab, we have your dashboard. So your dashboard allows you to visualize or say any items that are overdue, issues that have been sent out to you, meeting action items, and then you can visualize the location of your project. So again, depending on what items you'd like to visualize on your home tab, this is something that you can click on customize and you're able to make those changes. So allow me to go into one of the projects that I have here. So I can click on either of the projects. So let me use projects not on that's the first. So I'd mentioned that Autodesk Construction Cloud has various capabilities. So for us here, we have Autodesk Docs as something that comes with either Build, BIM Collaborate, or Takeoff, because that is what we're using as our common data environment. Then Design Collaboration and Model Coordination are tabs that are under BIM Collaborate. So if you've not purchased BIM Collaborate, what you would see is Docs and Build. So these two functionalities would not be available in your drop-down menu. So That means that at any point in time, for you to log into Build or to build BIM Collaborate Pro docs, you do not need an alternative link. It's still the same link, it's just that the functionalities increase based off on what package that you are currently on. Then insights come as add-ons, and then project administration is automatically something that comes in. So since on this project, I'm a project administrator, then I have visibility of all members. So I can be able to add different members on the project and grant them their roles and access levels. So I talked about being able to remove someone. So at any point in time, I can remove someone from membership of that particular project. And I talked about commissioning and handover. So we have the handover tool that's accessible under project administration. So this then again is something that makes sure that at any point, not everyone is handing over the project. So the project administrator is the one who has visibility of that particular handing over item. So let me go back to the build just for us to be able to see what else is on build. The same way on our landing platform, when you open Autodesk Construction Cloud, you have a dashboard that gives you insights on what is happening on the project. So on this specific one, it allows me to see very specific items on this particular project that's called Project Snowdon. So it shows me how many projects, how far we are in terms of completion. We're 5% completed. So when is our completion date? 14th May. It shows me how many days are left on this project. And it gives you a tracking bar that allows you to see what sort of milestones you have. Again, you can click on the edit milestones for you to be able to make changes to that. Then you can be able to see any recent activity that has happened. Any quick links, site weather, if you'd like to see that. Then your work status. So work status would be myself being the project manager or administrator on this project, what items are still overdue. So I have one ongoing issue, I have one open meeting item, and I'm seeing that there's an item that I have still not worked on. So I talked about how when there's something overdue, it will prompt that person to see that. So even for me, even without looking at my notifications on email, I can already see on this platform that I have an overdue issue. So allow me to just click on this overdue issue. And it will, once I click on that, it will take me directly to where the issues tab is. So, and with this issue, it will show me the specific issue that I haven't worked on. So this is a coordination issue, and it says that it's been assigned to this particular person. So as a project administrator, I'll open it and check whether there's been any activity. So I'd mentioned that there's an activity log. So probably I'd not added certain information to this particular project, but also using the activity log, I'll be able to see what information has transpired within this particular issue. So it's still open. It was a coordination issue, and there are two people who are added as watchers, and these two people are the project administrators. And then there's a pin. So the pin will take me directly to where that issue is. So for me, it's for me to liaise with this person called George and ask them what's not happening with this particular issue. So, and the creation of an issue, I'd mentioned that the user interface is quite intuitive. So all you need to do is click on create issue, and then from there you populate the data that is required. So you can change if it's something that's you're still populating, you can leave it as draft. And then once you're done, you click on open, and then you can always change the type of the issue. It's a design issue, it's an existing condition, and then you write a description of the issue. And what you'll notice is for you to create an issue, the only item that has an asterisk is the type. So this is to just make sure that if at the moment the issue has not yet been, like you do not have all the information, but you just want to create it and then you can continue editing it when you get to the desk, then that's what this does. You can just quickly create the issue, and then once you're seated or once you're in a position to populate the other information that's relevant to this issue, you can then open this issue. As long as you'd left it as drafts and you'd not sent it out, as long as you'd left it at draft and created. So you'll notice that it will be created. And then now when I'm ready, I'll come back and then I'll come and edit. So I'll come and edit the issues. So I'll come and edit, add a description, add the person I want to assign this particular task to, add watchers. So watchers, I'd mentioned that automatically you should have your engineers, your project administrators and the client as watchers. So now from there, it's based off on, is this an architectural issue? Is it a structural issue? Or do you even need both members of the team as watchers so that they can keep track of what is going on or the proceedings of this particular issue? So that is what you would do. Then, as you can see on my right of my screen, there's a filter that has been added. So that's why you can't see the issues. So when you click on the X, then you're able to see any other issues that have been created, whether they are closed, whether they are open, or whether they're still in draft. And this makes it easy for project managers or really anyone who's creating an issue to be able to populate this information once they are in a position to do or keep track of the activities or what is going on with every issue. And you can also be able to export. And the exporting, you can export it as a PDF format with just a list of the issues, depending on what information you'd like. And then you can send this out to members of the team based off on what it is you'd like. Then under files, let me just quickly go to docs. So I'd mentioned that with Build, you're able to have your file storage. So the files and the folders that will be created on files are based off on the different stakeholders that you have on your team. So at any point in time, you can add any other folders within a folder and keep updating that with time. So what you would do is as a project administrator, you can put the level permissions that any folder that is created under the architectural tab will inherit the privileges that were on the mother folder. So this means that at no point in time do you have to keep granting level permissions to new folders that have been created within a folder. So anything that will be under architecture will receive the same level permissions as what was on the initial folder. And this is what I was talking about. When you're doing the project setup, you make sure that all these things have been done so that by the time you're onboarding an architect, then it's for them to now populate, look at what folders do I have? Maybe there's something that you've missed out on. For example, this particular folder is called consumed. For those who've probably interacted with BIM Collaborate, then consumed would be items that you have received from a structural engineer. So automatically it creates this consumed folder under your file, under your folder, so that then you're able to receive information. So any information that is sent to you by an MEP engineer will be under your folder under this. And at any point in time, this means that whatever I was talking about, the single source of truth, we all have the same set of data, and it shows you if it's the first version, if it's the third version, as long as it's the same file name that has been sent out, then it will be overwritten. Same thing for any items that have been sent out, there's a shared folder. So you can see for the architect, depending on what they've shared, then those particular sets of information would be there. Then let me quickly go to the RFIs tab. I think that's something that's quite important for PMs to look at. Okay. So with RFIs, it's as simple as click on create RFI, and then based off on who do you need this request for information, then now create a number for it, enter the title, and then using the drop down, you can either create a new workflow or use the default RFI workflow. And then from there, you can indicate who's the person who needs to probably be working on that particular RFI. And then optional reviewers, who else would you like to review the set of information that comes through? And now insert the question, and possibly sometimes you want to give a response or what it is that you're looking at. If it's a methodology statement, and you can also add references if there are any references. It also allows you to add the cost impact, to add a schedule impact. Will this information affect any of those two items? it allows you to do that. And then from there, is it a high priority, low priority? And then what discipline does this lie in? So, and it has many sets of data that you can click on. Then the category, constructability, design, coordination, documentation, conflict. And then after that, it allows you to either customize or just continue using this. And then you'll add the client, because you'll probably need the client to see the architect or the person who's probably responsible for that RFI being created. Yeah. With the correspondence, let me just click on that just so that I can show what that looks like. And then the last one I'll do is the meetings, and then maybe we can quickly take a question. Okay, so from the correspondence, I'd mentioned that you can upload emails. So if you already have email attachments from previous communication, or even communication that was made away from the correspondence tab, you can use this drag and drop so that then you can add that particular information. And then from there, we have create. So all you need to do is click on create correspondence, and then it will be what type of correspondence is this? It's a general correspondence. Again, if you use the incident report, then this would be for HSC, especially most times when there's something that's happening on site. So you make sure you use that so that it becomes a high risk item for people to look at, a high priority item for members of the team to look at. Then the subject is in asterisk, so you can't send out an email without adding the subject matter so that people can quickly know what is this correspondence about. And then you need to send to someone at the very least. And then now you can CC the people that you'd like. And then do you want this to be private so that the only people who receive it are the people who are very specific to these two and CC? The other alternative is, do you want anyone else who has visibility of correspondence to see that particular information? So if it's information just between, say, the architect and structural engineer, then you do not necessarily need to add PAs. So depending on what your execution plan is, then you can decide on what you'd like to use under this privacy tab. And then the content, you need to add something. So content is the same way with our emails, we usually add a body. So that would be our content. And then if you'd like to probably drag specific files, you can also choose, do you want, so project files would be docs, anything you've already uploaded. So if I click on project files, automatically it will take me to the folder structure that you were previously looking at. So you can attach an item that is already uploaded on the cloud. The other alternative is you can choose something that is on your computer and add that as an attachment. So it allows you those two functionalities. And then from there, you can reference an item. So you can either reference a previous RFI, an issue, an ongoing submittal, like you can attach, you can click on probably RFI and select a specific RFI that you'd like to be referenced, so that by the time this correspondence is going, we have all the information that's necessary, so that this information is very specific to a specific RFI that's still overdue. So for example, the issue that we had where there's an overdue item, you can click on that specific item and attach it here, so that when this information is being sent out, the person who's looking at this email has all information at the disposal of their screen. So if they click on it, they'll see that there's an overdue item, there are specific attachments that I need to look at, and this is the email body. And this then makes it easy for us to send out that information. Then let me go to the meetings tab. Okay, so under meetings, you can create, depending on the different kinds of meetings that you usually have, and probably even have templates. So currently there are no templates for us to display. So the templates, as has been indicated, should be created in the library by the account administrators. And this is something that you'll notice with Autodesk Build. Depending on what you click on, it will guide you on what is probably needs to be done. For example, If it's a new review workflow and the project administrator has not yet created a workflow for that, it will prompt you to request the PM to create that workflow so that then you can use that workflow to send out your RFI. So at any point in time, you won't be stranded and wondering what it is that you need to do. Then we have the various meetings. So I can create a new meeting. So I'd mentioned that you can either start off from the agenda or minutes. So depending on at what point are you onboarding your consultants on the project, if you already have been, it's an ongoing project, so you probably already have minutes of the previous meeting. So you can just populate that here. So I'd mentioned that if it's a virtual meeting, you can add the video reference right here. You can also indicate when the meeting is, time, location, specify, and then add a description of the meeting items. And then you can also add attachments. And attachments would be, you choose specific files that you'd need to probably be added. So then after you're done with the specific items, then from there, you can change that from agenda to minutes. And then it will tell you, if you change this agenda item to minutes, it means that you've locked that particular agenda. So that now the only time is organizers can reopen it at any time. So if an architect is the one who is probably leading a design coordination meeting, then they will be able to reopen that. But then when you lock it at agenda, then now the minute writing starts. I think, Patrick, for now, I can end my demo there. Maybe.
Okay.
Patrick? Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you for the demo. I still see no questions, but we can do a quick. Sorry. Yeah. As I'm saying, I see no questions yet. Maybe to our panelists, in case you missed it, this is the time to raise your hand to put a question in the chat, so that today's trainer is able to attend to them sufficiently. I think, do you mind resharing the screen? Please go to exit photos. Is it photos or submittals? Let's go to photos.
Hello, Patrick. Hope you can hear me.
Yeah. On these photos, once you upload on this reference by, is it the person uploading or who feeds in this information?
Depending on what the execution. Yeah. Yes.
I don't know if my side is the same as yours, but to my right, who feeds that information? Is it the person uploading the photo?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah,
so what
the
would happen
location,
is,
etc.
so depending on what the execution plan is, I would assume that there would either be someone who does the daily reporting and also is in charge of the photos that are specific to the project. So that particular person would be in charge of adding the specific files and uploading them so that at any point, then once items have been uploaded, then it's possible for them to exist on the photos because it's just a gallery of sorts. So the other place where we have photos is when we had the RFIs or issues tab, you can upload very specific instructions. So this map is just to allow you to zoom into the specific areas on where the project is. But when you're doing your startup, what would happen is when you're setting up your project, you would log in the specific location of your project is. So that even when you're on site and you use your phone, if you use so I would suggest for those who are using the photos, the Autodesk Build, to use the ACC on their mobile phones and make sure that your geolocation is on. So if your geolocation is on as you're taking the photos and upload them and they're synchronized to the app, it will pick those different pins and you'll see that on the outline on the location map, it will show you the various photos that have been taken based off on where you are standing on the site itself. So this bit is just a filter, like you're trying to filter out specific photos. So this is just a filter. It's not necessarily information that you're picking out. So maybe you want photos that are being taken in a specific location, but this would mean that you already have sub-locations within your project. The other thing is you're trying to filter out between photos and videos. So since intuitively it's able to notice what is what, then you can only filter out the photos. Then from there, depending on that item, that photo, because all photos, remember when you do maybe your daily logging or you have an issue on site, it will upload some of these photos here. So depending on what is the reference of that photo. So if it's an issue, then it will show you all the photos that probably were referenced with an issue. So if it was an RFI, then the same thing. It will reference that particular RFI and show you any photos that had an RFI sort of attachment. Then if you'd like, maybe items that are just assets. Remember when we were talking about the commissioning, you have the assets. So maybe a HVAC system was delivered on site and you took a photo of that and you just want to see assets that have been sent to sites and photos were taken. So you can filter out. So this necessarily is not information that you key in. It's just to allow you to filter through because we have too many photos during the duration of the project. So depending on what it is that you'd like. And then once photos are uploaded, maybe there are specific tags that have been added to those photos. So say if automatically the AI is able to read that this is a door, so and you just want to search photos that show something to do with a door. So you can just search door and it will filter out photos that are showing a door. Then if you also want to filter out who has uploaded those photos. So depending on is it myself or is it another member of the team, then you can filter that out. So this is just to help you to narrow down on the photos that you're seeking out or the information that you're seeking out. And then from there, you can now export that information. So for now, these two things are blurred out. You can't download the photos because I don't have photos on this project, and you can't export them and send them out as a documentation because we don't have that. But if we did, then you would see that with every filter item that we use, then we'd have photos, and then you can either download that as a zip folder or export those specific photos. Hope that answers you, Patrick.
Okay, I think in summary, these platforms, at the current stages of development, we cannot really sort of give them autonomy. There still has to be somebody maybe feeding information and stuff. Because I'm trying to picture a situation where you will ditch the conventional way for efficiency and maybe and where there's efficiency, there is better performance, maybe there is better attention to detail, etc. But there's still the person as a resource, the person feeding the information. So if somebody has put in some wrong details, I think it's still, at this stage, it's still a problem, even to other platforms, from what I'm seeing. Or you can say that if for instance you upload a BQ here and there was a transposition error, is the intelligence at this stage able to figure out, for instance, you had put a rate of 1,000 instead of 1,000, which is multiplied by let's say 10,000. So that is like, is it 10 million for something that's supposed to be 1 million? Is the system able to call that out, or it will just say you're the one who put it? I'll just proceed with what you gave me all the way to the end. I look forward when you get to such kind of a level.
Yeah, I think right now we're still, like you said, we can't give too much autonomy to the systems yet, since we still have the way we conduct ourselves on site and on field. And at the end of the day, it's the sole purpose of us being construction professionals. So outsourcing that to a system would then mean that most of the work that we are supposed to do is being done by that. So for where we've gotten to in terms of product development and even Autodesk, we are making sure that most of the redundant processes or the mundane acts that we have on site, we are digitizing that, so that as opposed to you following up, doing most of the admin work and forgetting the part of us being construction professionals. So with this, we're able to specialize on that and prioritize that work. So if an architect is supposed to be designing and maybe giving instructions and sending out necessary information, so that's what we are doing. We're making sure that the architect is able to do that particular work and not necessarily have to start following up with an SE or someone else on specific drawings that needed to be updated. So I also look forward to when maybe things will be more autonomous. Yeah. So there's a question I'm seeing in the meeting chat from Sylvester.
Yeah.
So let me just address it. I'm seeing he's asking, since we are resellers of the Autodesk software, do we customize our licenses cost depending on clients' needs? In this case, ACC, Revit, Navisworks, and BIM 360, for example. So maybe for anyone who has issues on licensing, I have put my number and email address on the chat box, and we can be able to have discussions away from this. That's if you'd not probably want to talk about it here. It also can help you out with the reselling and whatever it is, depending on your client, on the needs of your project. But for this specific question, one, what I'd like to clarify is we do not have a collection that's called ACC. So what we would do is we would, depending on the specific software that you're looking for under ACC, so there's BIM Collaborate, there's Autodesk Takeoff, and then there's Build. So if you're seeking the three solutions, then we would bill you for that. And then for Revit, Navisworks, those two are under a collection called AEC. So we would bill you the same way. So as opposed to you purchasing Revit and Navisworks individually, we would grant you a quotation for Revit, for AEC, that has about 10 other softwares that you have access to once you purchase that particular collection. And this works especially for if you find that within the AEC space, you're using, say, Revit, AutoCAD, or even Revit 3ds Max, or maybe as a firm, you're using Navisworks. In fact, with the AEC collection, we also have Autodesk Docs. So you do not need to purchase docs separately. So if you're purely a firm that uses your drafting and you're looking for a cloud solution that can be your document management and for the document versioning and also for the control, you can use AEC because it comes with Autodesk Docs as an add-on. So that's something that we can be able to curate for you, Sylvester. So just contact me, text me, and I will be able to assist you on that particular, to assist you with the specific products that you're seeking out. Okay. Patrick, is there any question that I've missed out in the chat box? Don't think so.
I also don't think so. I think at this
Okay.
point we can get to the closing remarks. So maybe you can tell us Anything you'd like to add and how we'll be able to reach you?
Okay, so allow me to display the last screen I had. Just a minute. So for those who probably joined midway, ADCC International East Africa was located at Parksuits. That's just next to the police station, across the police station, Parklands Police Station. My contact information is on your screen if you'd like us to probably either resolve your digital transformation or assist you so that you can be able to digitize your construction workflows. So that's something that we usually provide as a service. Then we're also an Autodesk training center. We also offer SolidWorks training, and we can be able to customize that based off on the size of the construction team or even the professionals that are involved or are seeking out those particular services. So the other thing I would like to probably add is I will send, for those who probably would be interested, we'll be having physical events on the 27th of June at Golden Tulip. It will be a half-day event, so from morning from around 8:30 to 1 p.m. and we will provide lunch. So for those of you who would be interested, we will be having the discussion on BIM Collaborate Pro, how to have connected teams and smarter projects. So it would be a build-up of this particular webinar that we've had to see how we can be able to use BIM Collaborate Pro to have better projects and have teams that are not necessarily working in silos. So for those of you who would be interested, again, feel free to reach out to me on either my number or email address, and I'll send you an invitation for you to sign up, and we look forward to having you. So please make sure that you register so that also we are able to keep track of who will be attending the event. Other than that, thank you so much for listening to me. Apologies for the technical issues we had at the beginning, and we will make sure the next time when we have our meeting, that will not be repeated. Over to you, Patrick.
Yeah, thank you for honoring the invite. Thank you for your presentation. I believe attendees, members, there were several, I think, when you are presenting the other document, and that's around 3:30. For listening in, I'm sure you've gotten the basics, able to know the kind of platforms are out here, which are actually internationally competitive and recognized. So we look forward to hosting you again. For those in need of the platform, I'm sure you know how to reach her. And the recording will also be availed later on, possibly on our social media handles. And it'll be posted in the chat, particularly YouTube. So thank you once again, and I look forward to another interaction. Asanteni.
Thank you so
And
much.
at this juncture, the meeting is now concluded.
Goodbye. Thank you so much.